Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, and Happy New Year. It's 2018, and we look forward to another full year of intriguing sports locally here. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to get into the Penguins and their situation. They are out of the playoffs at the moment. What must they do to get back into that picture? The #1 topic, however, tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers going 13-3, the #2 seed. We'll talk about the game today and also moving ahead into the postseason. And to do that, here is your panel. Left to right on your television screen, Paul Zeise from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Paul Zeise Show on 93.7 The Fan. Will Graves, outstanding journalist with the Associated Press in the middle. And to the right, it's Tim Benz, Tim Trib, and also Steelers Radio Network. He wears a lot of hats these days, and we're glad that one of them is here on the Showdown. So let's get right into this, and Tim, we'll start with you on this one. The Steelers today rested all of their key individuals, which was in stark contrast to what New England did up there. They played everyone, including to the bitter end. They won 26-6, so they got the #1 seed. But what does this tell you about the Steelers in terms of how they feel about themselves? They were willing to take the 2 seed even if New England had lost that game.
Right, exactly. It's not what I would have done. I would have played the starters for at least a half until I figured out what was going on in the game against Cleveland in my stadium and what was going on for the game between the Patriots and the Jets. I certainly understand why Tomlin did what he did. I just happen to be of the school of thought that we treated that Week 15 game like it was a regular season Super Bowl for one reason and one reason only. It meant, does the Steelers team have to go up to Foxborough where they've never beaten Tom Brady, or do they have a chance to maybe beat the Patriots here in Pittsburgh? They lost, it didn't happen, but according to what the players are saying in the locker room, they take a lot from the fact that the coach basically said it doesn't matter where we play, it's who we play, and we want our guys healthy, so let's go with more of a priority on health as opposed to venue.
I mean, if Ben tweaks his ankle in the second quarter and we don't know what his status is for the divisional round, we're losing our minds. Why is he playing? I mean, I think
wouldn't.
They beat the Browns with the backups last year. It was basically the same script today. The Browns lost the game today. But, I mean, look, we've talked about the depth. The depth is better this year. They have Juju this year. I mean, Stephen Ridley came off the couch and scored a touchdown today. I think that Mike thought, hey, my backups are better than Cleveland starters. He was right.
I think that also, I think the fact that, they're playing the Browns, the Steelers could basically put anybody out there and still have a chance to beat the Browns. So I never thought that was even the question. The question is, what is your percentages of getting the #1 seed? I look at the fact that Bryce Petty was trying to win a game in Foxborough and say the Steelers did the right thing. Just rest everybody because you were never going to get the #1 seed today.
Were you surprised that they played the starters in New England as long as they did, though, Will? This game was over, really, into the early portions of the third quarter, and yet here they were still playing.
New England had more at stake. I mean, they needed to win this game to make sure they got the #1 seed. The Steelers had ifs and ands and buts involved. The Patriots did not. So, I mean, I think the situation was reversed. If the Steelers had needed to win today, and that was the only thing in the outcome, Mike would have played his guys late into the game. So I believe this is just, Belichick doing what he's supposed to do, making sure his team has a chance to win, and obviously it worked out for them. And they haven't won there in, 12 years? So.
What were the ifs and ands and buts? If they were playing the Browns and we were just told that was an automatic, what were the ifs and ands and buts?
The ifs and ands or buts were that New England needed to lose in order for the Steelers game to be relevant.
Right, but I mean, from the New England perspective, which was asked, it's pretty straightforward. You win and you get it, you lose and you don't if the Steelers beat the allegedly easily beatable Cleveland Browns. So how is it all that different?
All right. Because the Steelers did not have the #1 seed in hand. The Patriots did.
Okay.
So basically, if both teams win, the Patriots have the Patriots get the bye.
Right.
It's a completely different situation for the New England than it was for the Steelers.
But I mean, you're still approaching it as if we need to win if the Steelers beat the Browns, who we are
The Steelers are approaching it like we're probably not going to get the #1 seed because they're probably going to win up there. So therefore, let's just rest everybody.
No, I get that
If the Steelers had to win, if the Steelers had it in hand, I guarantee you that Ben Roethlisberger would have started the game today. If they were the 1 seed already.
I want to talk about, though, that game could have gone a lot of different directions. Cleveland kind of shot themselves in the foot quite a bit today to the point where they may not have any feet left. And there was a drop pass at the end to Corey Coleman that was a big difference after Kaiser escaped the pack. So my question is, there were big plays against. Paul Zeise, when you see the Steelers play defense, they had 2 passes over 50 yards. They had none all season long coming into this game, Cleveland. There still remains tackling issues, angle issues. Are you concerned at all about their secondary and how they've gone about business there?
Well, I don't know how you couldn't be concerned about it, but I think the fact they're 13-3 means they've done a lot of things to overcome it. And I think the other thing is you saw today that they were pretty good at bending but not breaking all the time. And so, I mean, they find ways to win. They seem to be able to come up with big plays when they need it on defense. It's obviously a concern because it keeps happening, but by the same token, they're 13-3, so they've figured out how to overcome it some too.
And 56 sacks is a lot of sacks. I mean, they set the franchise record today, and I get that they have played some meh quarterbacks the second half of the year. But still, that was, I mean, Mike Tomlin at the beginning of the season said, I think this can be a dominant group. At times, they can be dominant. Sometimes they bring pressure to do that. That leaves their secondary guys in single coverage. They've said they can get better in that. I'm a little concerned, but I also think Kaiser played pretty well today. I'm not sure how much of that was bad play by the Steelers and how much of that was just, hey, the guy, for all his mistakes, and he had, 22 picks this year, he has gotten better. If they can protect him and he cannot have brain farts, I think he might actually be good for the Browns in the future.
The big plays over the top from Jacksonville or whoever it is that they might face in the first round of the playoffs, to me, that's a concern for that game. I don't think it really matters all that much against the Patriots because whether it's big plays over the top or just little chunks down the field, you got to figure out a way to stop Gronkowski, and they've never done that. So I'm most concerned for the first game of the playoffs, how do they contain the big plays so they get to New England, not so much against New England specifically because they can beat you either 10 yards at a time or 50 through the air at once.
When we come back, we're going to get into the Steelers talking about Landry Jones because he started today and he looked pretty good. The question is, can Landry Jones be someone you could rely upon if Ben Roethlisberger should retire? Who knows? That might become a situation in this offseason. We're getting into that. We have some college football playoffs, Penguins, all coming up. So don't go away. You're watching the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown right here on KDKA-TV. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better. And by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.